Hello, welcome to lesson number 5 or lecture number 5. Today we're going to be talking about the speech making process, and this will relate to chapters 2, 8, 16, and 19 in your textbook. So be sure and review those as you go along, as well as the PowerPoint that I'll be sending along with this video lecture. What do we do to create our speech? First of all, let's just go through the list of the various steps you go through, and then we'll break them down and look at them individually. First of all, select the topic. After you have selected your topic, you're going to create your thesis or your central or main point. Then research the topic, develop the body of the speech, prepare the introduction and conclusion. Remember, we talked about this earlier. You don't create your introduction or your conclusion until the main body of the speech is written. Then you choose the forms of support that you are going to use. Develop your note cards if you are needing those, and then rehearse your speech. Very simple. Select the topic, develop your thesis, research your topic, develop the body, prepare the introductions and conclusions, choose the forms of support, make your note cards if needed for your evidence, and then rehearse the speech. Let's start first with selecting the topic. Now, the first thing you need to know when selecting your topic, be aware of your time limitations. Is this going to be a topic that's going to require a lot of time to discuss, or is this going to be a topic that you can do in 5 or 10 minutes? It's going to depend on your audience and what the situation is as to what type of length you're going to be looking for. So know that when you are selecting your topic. Be aware of your experience and your interests. Remember, I've talked about that several times in lectures and the day we met in class. If this is a subject that is of interest to you, if it's something that you know and you understand, then it's going to be a much easier subject for you to develop into a speech and discuss with your audience. So be aware of your experience, and also with your experience and your interests, chances are you have examples, you have stories that can work into the speech, and that will make it a much better presentation. Consider the audience. What's the gender? Male, female, mixed? What's the age group? There are a number of different things that you want to, ethnicity is another thing that you want to consider. Number of different items you want to think about with regard to your audience, the type of topic you're going to use, and that sort of thing. It all works together in helping you to create an effective presentation. And then one other thing, consider the research availability. You may have a great topic for a speech, but if there is not enough evidence available, or evidence that's easy to find to help you support what it is you're saying, then chances are you need to find another topic. Make sure that there is plenty of evidence, magazine articles, people you can interview. We'll get into this a little bit more detail in just a moment, but make sure there's plenty of research topics available for you to consider and use when creating your speech. Now, in the speech, one of the things you need to know the difference of when you are doing your creation process is understanding the distinction between the informative and the persuasive speech. Now, informative is just what it says in the title. It's an informative speech. You're trying to communicate something with a goal of reflecting new ideas or information. You're not trying to persuade. You're not trying to get someone to do something. You're just merely telling them about something. And then there is the persuasive speech. And again, when you're selecting your topic and deciding whether you're going to do an informative speech or a persuasive speech, what is it that your audience is expecting from you? Know this to help you make this distinction. All right, let's, if you look at the PowerPoint that is accompanying this presentation or this lecture today, you're going to see a couple of different examples between informative speeches and persuasive speeches using basically the same topic. For example, one I've put on the list, a persuasive speech. Tie-dyeing a shirt is something everyone should try. It's just something you should do. You don't have to do it. I'm not telling you need to do it. I'm just telling you it's very easy. It's something you ought to think about. That's persuasive. Now, if you're going to be informative, what we're going to do is tell you there are 6 steps to tie-dyeing a t-shirt. See the difference? On the persuasive, we're telling you that here's something and you ought to try this. If we're informing you, we're just telling you there are 6 steps to doing this. All right, another persuasive idea. A person needs to be able to spot anorexia nervosa. We're going to tell you what the symptoms are and what the problems can be caused by it, and you need to be able to spot this. But then on the informative side, we're just telling you that anorexia nervosa is a serious illness. We're not telling you you need to take any action. We're not telling you you even need to think about it. It's just you need to know that it's a serious illness. There are a couple of other examples on the PowerPoint. You can create others on your own, I'm sure. Now let's talk about the thesis, or the central idea. When you are creating your thesis, you come up with your topic. Now you want to create your thesis statement. You want to use complete declarative sentences. You want to provide the general direction of the speech in your thesis statement, and it must contain your central idea of your speech. Focus on your thesis when conducting your research too. What you're going to try to do is, you've made this declarative statement about something. Now you're going to use your research to try to prove it. Bottom line is, you're telling someone about something, and your research is going to show that you know what you are talking about. So you're trying to prove your thesis statement. And there are a number of different ways that you can support this. First of all, personal examples. And then there are those outside sources of information, like interview sources. I'm sure if you're talking about nursing, let's say in one of your speeches, there are a number of people on campus that you could go interview that would be experts on the topic. Same way with anything else. There are experts around. If you wanted to talk about plumbing, go find a plumber, someone who is a licensed master plumber. He would be someone who could give you all the authoritative information that you need to support whatever it is you're trying to say about plumbing. There are listening sources. That would be your radio, your television. There are internet sources, of course. There are print sources, and there are a number of those. Government documents and professional periodicals. There would be popular periodicals like a Time or a Newsweek. There are pulp periodicals, People, and some of those kinds of magazines. You might want to avoid those. They may not be the most believable sometimes. It's one reason why we also say avoid Wikipedia as much as possible, because in a lot of cases the information that you find on Wikipedia does not have the proper sources cited for it to be a credible source. Brochures, pamphlets, books, library databases, all of those are good sources of information for your research for your speech. Now, your research should have the following criteria attached to it, and pay attention to these three. They will probably show up on a test somewhere down the line. First of all, it should be current. Your research information should be updated. It should be relevant to your audience. And by current, I'm saying, and it's going to depend on the topic. If you're talking computer sciences, probably somewhere within the last 2 to 4 or 6 months. If you're talking something else historically, in the last 2 to 3 years probably would be current. It must be credible. So we've got current, now we add credible. And we can accept the source as being believable. That's what we mean by being credible. And then it's got to be comprehensive. You want to look at all sides of the issue. If you are talking about, let's say, the gun control issue, you want to present the anti-gun control side as well as the pro-gun side. And there may be another side, too. So you want to make sure you've researched all sides of any issue and present that while you're talking. The introduction, that needs to include an attention getter as well as your thesis. We've talked about that a number of times with gaining attention. The conclusion should not have any new information, and it should not end with "that's it." Now, as I said, you can say, as you're transitioning from the body of the speech into the conclusion, you can say, "Now, in conclusion," that's a transition. You're shifting. But don't ever wrap up your speech with, "Okay, that's it, I'm done." That just doesn't make you a very credible speaker. A couple of other things as you outline your speech. We talked about the 3 C's, the current, credible, and comprehensive. Let's talk about different types of arrangement. If you're going to do a chronological speech, and that's used quite often with the informative, you want to go step by step from the beginning to the end. It is a logical progression from the beginning to the end. That's chronological. Spatial, you're talking about a room, you're talking about a football stadium, you're describing something that's a space. There's topical, that would be basically what is your subject. If you're talking about something that is going on now, the Egyptian riots, the snowstorms we've been having, then those are going to be topical type speeches. And then there's the logical, which would be your persuasive speech. You're showing that there is a problem, and then possibly showing what the solution is going to be. That's the logical speech. Some general notes about evidence. You use evidence only to support your sub-points. You do not put evidence on your outline. If you have evidence that you're wanting to cite specifically, then you need a separate note card that maybe relates back to your outline, and we can show you how to do that, and will at a later time. But you want that evidence on a separate note card so that your outline is not all full of information and it looks like a written out speech. You want the outline to be an outline. Make note cards for your evidence. You want to have more evidence than you will use in your presentation. That will make your speech much stronger. If you have enough evidence that you really don't need all of it, you can pick the strongest and toss out some of the other points. And then you want to be able to explain how your evidence relates to your point. Make sure that that works. Types of evidence. We have examples, and you can use those just one time through the speech. There are statistics. There is testimony. Testimony would be the expert comments or expert opinions that we were talking about a moment ago. There are definitions that you may want to use to help clarify terms and clarify the sequence of events you're talking about. There are illustrations, which are basically just extended examples. And then there's analogy. You're comparing what you know to something that we have already seen in the past. These two work together, or like this, here's a story that shows that what I'm saying is true. One thing you want to do, by the way, on the PowerPoint there will be, right in here, there is an example of an outline with a note card to the side. This will give you an idea of how to prepare a note card so that you can use it through the speech to cite your evidence, and again, not have it on the outline. Now, once we have the speech all put together, rehearse your speech. 20 times is suggested. You really want to be comfortable with your speech. Find a friend to listen to you. Rehearse to a mirror. Set up a video camera and record yourself. A lot of our cell phones have video capability. A lot of our just cameras have some short video clip capability. Record yourself and see what you sound like and how you are reacting, what gestures you're making, how your facial features look, and all. And don't forget, as you get all of this put together, your overviews and transitions, because these help you to transition or segue between the open into the body, between the main and minor points, out of the body into the conclusion. It's just a very easy way for you to help the audience transition from the beginning to the end of your speech.